for me, I knew what I wanted, and luckily because I went to college and kind of an international college, I had friends that were from Hong Kong that could help me search out for these types of factories and find these contracts and really communicate to factories in Cantonese or Mandarin about what I was looking for. So that was one thing I would suggest if you have friends that either live in the country or who are close enough to who speak the language, even like working with Italian factories or any factory, if you have someone who speak the language and like really get to the nitty gritty of what you want to do, that's probably way more like useful than trying to you yourself cold call. I try to do a lot of research as much as I can. And that was literally, unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, starting on Alibaba, which is a manufacturing directory, and just not even looking at their products, just going to their company profiles and looking at their own. I think one of the things is like if they have a website is always a good thing. If they actually list their factory conditions, like the actual like square footage and how many employees they have, and like their certification licenses and all, if they list everything, and it also these licenses are like up to date. It gets really nitty gritty. It just have to do a lot of research, and then luckily, then I would take all this information research and I would pass it on to friends of mine who would graciously have the time to help me like reach out to them in Cantonese or Mandarin and figure out like how much money would I need to put up front to get involved. So one time.
I love it. Yes. And Anthony, like going back to you as a designer, have you gone through like phases in life from finding out who you truly are as a person? And what is like that, like during that, journey?
Yeah, I think for me, like the phases definitely came in. I think a lot of the phases, I can remember a lot of my personal growth happening in clothing, especially what I was wearing at the time, and the outfits I was wearing. And I have so much like footage or photos from way back when, from when I was in college, of like what I wore to my styling classes, what I wore to my people photography class, what I wore to, I was wearing outfits. I mean, I wore some really questionable things, but they were all like basically building blocks of who I was. And now I guess this is not the end. I'm still always learning about who I am. But I try to channel that for design wise. I try to channel that in a way that's like, well, I want basically a freshly 18-year-old person in Omaha to see my Rachel dress and fully be like, oh yeah, that's me. I see that. That is something that speaks to me. And they are also equally an LGBT, gay, lesbian, trans person, or a queer person, and so basically, I kind of re-reference my own outfits a lot of the time, but then also I get a lot of inspiration from other brands that like I really truly like, oh, their design is so fresh, or I love how they did this or presented that. And I watch a lot of like creative like documentaries or videos or just whatever I kind of get inspired by. I'm always just like, what can I get my hands on to like make sense?
On your website, you just posted this like a short story about Lunar Love Line.
Yeah.
Is that like inspiration on like certain piece of your clothing?
Well, Lunar Love Line is a collaboration between myself and one of my really close illustrator textile friends named James Ty. James Ty and I actually met in the School of Fashion at Academy of Art, where we would see each other like all the time. We'd never say hi. We would just see each other and just recognize that we were in the same place at the same time. We always like, oh, you're that really nice person. Oh, you're that gay person. We reconnected over the pandemic, and then basically they had learned that I was starting to make things and make fashion. And from there, basically they were like, we should collaborate. We should do something. We should try to make things together. And so we created this diffusion line together called Lunar Love Line, which is all inspired by like manga and anime from our early 90s childhoods.
I know.
Anything repertoire of like Sailor Moon to Tokyo Mew Mew to Ramen.
Yes.
Trying to think, there's so many we referenced. I mean, there's so many, but so we wanted to kind of create a world and a story. I mean, like, I think we all remember when we were like, if you're like a kind of a out of the popular kids, like in middle school, high school, if you're not a popular kid, you were writing short stories and making short manga drawings, or you were sketching in class or whatever. And we want to kind of reintroduce that idea through this collection. So this first capsule we did was 2 dresses, and we also did, actually I'm wearing them, we did Crocs.
What?
So James did all the illustration, and I found the manufacturer to make these, and basically just like communicate with the manufacturer. So yeah, we're actually working on our second capsule, the second chapter, with the support of the community. Like, we put it out to the community about like what they want to see, what mangas did they love as you know, young kids or young teens, and we got some really great feedback back, which is like, you know, something that I think is fun about fashion is that fashion doesn't have to be so serious in the way that it's like you launch a collection every season, you launch a whatever, you have to, you know, keep doing the next thing. It's like we can have fun with it in the way that it can be such a flowing, tangible item that like it can be whatever I want it to be, because it's my business.
It's your brand, yeah.
I love
your brand, your time.
Yeah, it's my brand, it's my time.
Yes. Seem like you are very busy. How do you make sure, you know, your work-life balance? How do you separate that?
Well, I think it's like having, for me, work-life balance is like taking it day by day. I'm very much the person, I don't plan ahead more than like a month. I think as we've realized that we've now lived through a global panorama, that it can cause serious outages in the world, that I don't try to plan more than a month and a half in advance. It's day by day. Sometimes my work-life balance is like, okay, well, I was up until 2 a.m. on WeChat talking to the factory about a sobai that I had mailed them and making sure they got it, and making sure we had a sample of that sobai. Just so everyone knows, a sobai is something that you make in your, you know, your first run in your own studio, that you basically then put, you know, into a mailer, send it to your factory, and then they basically make a copy of it from what you sent them. They try to they pull it apart, they take all your pieces. Sometimes they don't even pull it apart. Sometimes they just look at it and they just can try to make something as close as you can to it. It's a lot cheaper than doing a pattern, but anyhow. So for me, it's like if I'm up late doing that, then I'm like, okay, well, tomorrow will just be like, I will lay in bed until noon and just hang out and just go on TikTok or play games or something, or like draw. And then I'll start my day at 1 o'clock or whatever, because I was up until however late. But there's also sometimes when, like, especially this Lunar Love Line collection, when we were getting down to the launch day, it was like, I'm working like from basically 9 a.m. till end of the day 7, just to like make sure things are on the website, make sure the socials are connected, make sure I have all my creative done, make sure there's so much that goes into that. I'm just I'm revving back into starting to launch something here soon.
With your designs as well and how broad it is and stuff, each of the product has its own name. And with this name, what is the names of these people? What are they to you?
So one thing that I love to do is that I love to name my pieces off of real people in my life, or people that have like inspired me or supported me, or have been like, you know, just in my life in a way that like has been a nice constant, or like something that's been just, you know, ongoing. I'd love to name my pieces after people. It's also, the thing is, I think when I was first starting, it was also hard to name the pieces, because it's like, do I name them something? A lot of fashion brands either name their pieces after people, or they name them as numbers, or they name them untitled white blouse number 3. I don't know. So I thought that was a nice homage, and like people are like always really surprised and like delighted by it, which is really like a fun. It's also a feeling thing too. Like people are very like, they feel good when they see like their name is inspired, you know, or it's a part of the piece. But like this last collection I just did called Joy, was all the pieces were inspired by the community. So like the community, I put it out to the community, like if you could name someone in your life that really like loves you or supports you, who would that be? And I had a lot of responses, and so it was just matching names and descriptions to pieces, and so a lot of the pieces are inspired by my community's like, community.
I love it because like I thought like each of the like the name of it kind of reminds me of a similar as Taylor Swift's album. You know how it's like personal, how it's like, oh, this happened to my life, or this person's just like, like my best friend who I've gone through this and that. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I love that, and I think more brands should be more like sharing their stories, and also like into more of like their struggles as well, and say, hey, look at me now and stuff. I have a massive, massive question. With all of these priorities and like how you explain work and life balance, do you have inspiration in your life that's happening right now?
Upcoming work.
Oh gosh, yeah. What is inspiring me right now? I mean, I think for me, kind of what's inspiring me now is like, I hate to use the word nostalgia because it's like it's so thrown around, and people are like, people's nostalgia is so different. Everyone has a different version of nostalgia.
Of
I think
course.
my version of nostalgia was really like I'm very much re-inspired by like how I grew up with my mom in Washington, and that was like the dichotomy of like listening to Three Doors Down in the car and then listening to Dolly Parton, and then it skips to Nickelback, and then it goes like it was one
variety.
Yeah, she had like one CD that had like rock, a little bit of country on it, like mainly Dolly, and like that's kind of nostalgia I'm remembering, or like remembering like going to a park every Friday because it was hot, and where I'm from, it was very, very hot. So the only open pool situation was this like outdoor fountain thing. So it's like that's nostalgia I'm kind of going back to in my work, and that is kind of translating in like colors and textures rather than like I'm like focusing on doing another print collection right now with James for our Lunar Love Line diffusion line. That's kind of what's right now. I mean, it's a big question, and I'm like, God, what is inspiring me right now? Yeah.
I love it. We're not designers, and that's why I asked that question, because we wanted to go through like how do you get inspiration of each of these products, because each of these products is so interesting, and the way it was like designed, especially with the Rachel dress, you have that string at the side where it's like you adjust it, to the waist, and it kind of like hugs to your body.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, especially those two. I think the more like technical thought was for me was like, I can't make this dress larger than a large because it's this fabric. I only have a certain amount of fabric to make like a certain amount of pieces, and so I use a lot of dead stock and available stock fabric in my work. Oh, sorry, that Matcha really hit me. She hit me right in the gut. And so with that dress especially, it's made from a really nice specialty fabric that was only available in a dead stock form. And so I was like, okay, well, I could essentially make these three sizes. Basically, they are going to be like extra large, 2X, 3X. But when you cinch it in, then it can become a large, a medium, and a small, because when you cinch them, then they hug you to a nice shape. And that was kind of my technical workaround of like, okay, well, I can't really make these into extended sizes, but I can basically do some trickery and make them like to a variety of different sizes. And there's a few other dresses I've made too that have that same mind and thought process where there is like a kind of a cinch.
I personally like went to your pop-up when you have a pop-up in Hayes Valley, and when I went there, I tried on this dress. I love this dress specifically. It's like the Audrey Hepburn with the ribbon at the arms.
Yeah.
What's the name of it again? If you mind, like
it's the Amara.
The Amara. The Amara, I'm inserting the image there. The Amara itself is just so elegant. The way it was so well done by the chest area.
Thank you.
And the way it's like on the arms, it's perfect, Anthony. That's like, wow. Yeah. The other personal favorites is the Carl. the coral.
Yes.
Shout out to Lucas. Lucas rocked it on that photo shoot.
Oh yeah.
And yes, and he looked so elegant, and it kind of reminds me of the Filipiniana in the Philippines and the arms area. Do you have anything that's upcoming? Is that what you're wearing right now? Is that something that you're
No, this is a nasty gal dress I've had since 2015.
I love nasty.
And then this is something I stole from. This is a sweater I stole from the School of Fashion styling closet. That's this.
Oh.
And I saw all the Copenhagen girlies wearing their sweaters like this, just with the arms down, and like, I want to do that.
Look cute though. It go well together.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, upcoming for me, I'm working on the last chapter of my personal capsule. It's called Tender, Joy, and Fear. Tender was the first part of the capsule. Joy just came out, and then Fear will come out later in time. But right now I'm also working on just the Lunar Love Line capsule with James, and getting that hopefully ready. Hopefully by August, we'll see.
Yeah. We cannot plan a month ahead, so
I know. I'm day by day. Whatever I'm feeling, it has to happen.
Yes. Are you ready for the rest of your day?
Yeah, I need to actually clean my studio because it looks like someone fully came into it with a weed whacker. Like fabric, there was like bags of fabric everywhere. There's like, and also in my brain too, I'm like, ooh, maybe I should go to Goodwill and see if there's any good fabric I could make something for. You know what I mean? I'm like, but no, I have enough fabric, Anthony. Use the fabric you got. You know what I mean? Like, yes. Stop. I actually just finished a custom blazer before I went on staycation last week. So I feel like I'm coming down from that because that blazer took a lot of my technical prowess and I was very tired.
You really appreciate like how your advocacy and what you stand for, sharing your story of your journey, who you are now. If you could go back to the old Anthony, before it all started, what is your advice to that Anthony back then?
I would say I'd be like, why are you like this? Calm down. I would just say like you're doing great. Like I think my advice, not even advice, I think just something I would let you know is that like all you can do in life is just make the right decision. Anyone ever is trying to do is make the right decision. And so I wouldn't try to double back on any decisions that you make because ultimately, like if you're not standing firmly in your conviction, like you're not really living. You're just making the right decision. That's all you're doing. Huh?
I love it. Well, you really, like, I can say as another queer person, you really have touched me. And, you know, like how...
I did touch you when you came to the pop-up.
Not in that way. I'm just saying, like, you really touched me by your story and how strong you are as an individual, you know, and how you still continue to fight for equality. I hope many more designers are like you out there, more like that comes out.
Yeah, totally. I mean, thank you both for having me, you know, and supplying my morning with some greens.
Of course. I need
logos.
That will be in the making. What is your advice to fellow queer designer out there that's starting their products soon?
Yeah, I think the thing is that if you're a queer person and you're making product, I think you have to also come to the fact and the terms that your products will ultimately be queer themselves. I think the thing is you should lean into that and you should lean into that light when it comes to being a queer person. Every queer person has an interesting story to tell, and I think every queer person has a different life they've lived. And if you can bring product into the market that makes your quality of life better, I think you should focus on that. God, sorry, Jesus. Oh my God. The matcha's really getting me. No, it's early in the morning. It's noon. But no, I think as long as you lead into your queerness in a light that helps you make product that tells your story, I think you should totally do that and not try to make heteronormativity. Yeah.
What is that word? That is such a big word.
Heteronormativity.
Mm-hmm.
It's when people try to basically be like, you live by the standards of how hetero people have put in place for us in general. Like, get a
Yes.
good job, get a degree, get married.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Hmm.
So
Ah, that's an interesting word. That's like the first time I heard about it. But everyone's still learning and growing. But anywho, we enjoyed your time here, Anthony, and we really love your presence. And where can they see your product next? Like, do you have any upcoming pop up? You know?
if anyone likes to like check out my work and take a look at it, the website is endourlabel.com, and you can follow me on TikTok, Instagram. That's kind of where the two places I like to post a lot. It's just and our label, and basically I just post about how I make things, fabric shopping, so you kind of get a taste of my life.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Anthony.
Thank you for being here.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you too. Appreciate it.
We hope you enjoyed our episode of our podcast today.
Before you go, please make sure to follow us on Instagram, Matcha Talk _podcast.
Don't forget our TikTok account. It's Matcha Talks. All right. We hope to hear from you soon.
Bye.
Bye.